What's up, man?
Hey, Robert.
We know who you are. Bill Watkins, we're here at Seagate. Right?
Oh, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, and thanks for sponsoring my show again.
No, I like doing that.
Yeah. And so what's been happening in the hard drive business? What's going on in your world?
Well, I think...
Have you made any outrageous statements to the press lately?
Trying to
the PR guys over there going, oh, no.
Trust me, I'm trying to stay out of the New York Times. No, I think, actually, it's kind of a lot of the things that we've talked about before are just growing bigger and bigger. I mean, and you can't read the paper today without really seeing something where someone is downloading or putting more content on the internet or figuring some way of getting their content distributed electronically or digitally. And so, and all that just plays in our game. It's all about storage. We just to give you an example, we just celebrated our billionth drive.
That's amazing.
But it took us, I don't know, it took us almost, 18 years or something like that to do 1 billion drives? We'll do another billion in the next 4.
Next 4 years.
Next 4 years. And that just tells you how large and how fast this business is growing of storage. But people5continue to digitize information. They want to distribute it digitally. And obviously for us, a great deal that's being put on a hard drive.
Yeah. What are the trends that are driving your business right now? I can guess 2 of them. One is home entertainment and one is data centers, right?
Yeah, I think...
am I right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And in a lot of ways, they're both connected because the data centers are growing because they're distributing content. And a lot of that content is going to home. I think over the next couple of years, and we project by 2010, we'll actually sell more storage into the home, in the home applications, than we will to business. And you think about that, that's just a phenomenal, when you think about all the storage that
sort of makes sense because of high definition TV.
Well, it's not only high def, it's just the broad breadth of different types of content, whether it's your home pictures, your videos, stuff you want to download off the internet. I mean, but it's amazing the type of content. One of the things that we're seeing, and I kind of believe this, is that basically people look and will watch, I will call lousy content if it's easy to watch.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that. I mean, people are watching commercials on the internet and downloading it and sharing it and doing that. And so what's happened, very much like TV in the 50s, you're seeing a lot of content. I won't call it amateur content, but a lot of content is going into that internet. And then what's happening, the eyeballs are following it.
Yeah.
The advertising dollars are following it. And the people that own the videos and the movies and if you will, more professional content are having to follow that too.
Yeah.
So whether you're a writer who writes for newspapers or magazines, you've got to get on the internet with your own blog. Whether you're, a TV show, whether you're a movie station, you've got to get your stuff on there. And so again, you're just seeing this proliferation of content. And that content's being shared and used.
As part of my show, which I get to do because of your sponsorship, we were at IBM's research lab where the hard drive was invented. And they let me move a single iron atom across a piece of copper, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said right now it takes a couple 100,000 iron atoms to store a bit of information. And they're in a race, right?
Yeah.
With you guys and other people trying to find out how can you reduce the size that a bit can be stored in, right?
Yeah.
Do you right now, I mean, everybody's doing terabyte drives,
right?
Are we going to see a 10 terabyte drive anytime soon, or
even
a petabyte drive?
I think you'll eventually see all that.
What's going to be the breakthrough that gets you there?
Well, again, I think as we look at sort of the conventional physics of storage, we see a terabyte per square inch pretty clearly out there from a roadmap. I mean, there's things we got to invent and stuff, but it's not. From my perspective, it's not massive violations of physics and things like that. I think as we get past that, there's other technologies. The optical technology is still out there as very viable. It's not as, from an IOPS, is not as good or things like that.
IOPS is what?
It's how fast you translate data and things like that. But it's massive storage. I think you got people looking at nanotubes. Some of the things that IBM's doing. You got this racetrack technology. There's a lot of technology because fundamentally we're going to store a lot of data, and everything is going to be digitized. And so, obviously, the investment chasing those sort of technologies is being put in and out there. The solid state guys, they're doing a lot of things.
Yeah, this isn't cheap stuff to do. I mean, IBM had a machine in one room that cost $20 million.
Yeah,
right? And you guys have the same kind of room, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we need to get you in one of those rooms and
but
show us what you guys are doing in terms of research and development?
Well, again, but all of it's because of that. It is a lot of dollars, but the market's so big it justifies it.
Yeah.
And the market gets bigger and bigger, and the application set gets broader. So again, we see a lot of technologies out there, and that's kind of what makes it exciting. I mean, if you're really in our business, what is really exciting about it is the ability to push this technology, push the limits, and really find different ways of storing what we think is going to be a lot of content.
For both the home and the data center, electronic usage is real important because of global warming, right? What are you guys seeing in terms of power utilization, in terms of storage per? Is the power going down? Are you seeing big breakthroughs in the amount of data you can store with a set of amount of electricity?
Yeah. Well, again, I think you know, green is in everyone's mind right now, and I'm a little suspect of some of this, but
well, it comes down to money, right? I mean, Google puts in 100,000 hard drives, and if you can make them work on 10% less power, that saves them money. Right?
And I think that's, you know, when you look,
makes us all feel good.
Well, and again, you got to be very careful. You know, you change one part of the equation, and increase more power somewhere else. I mean, and part of this is I think you can get yourself fooled a little bit by doing things. I mean, the great example is all of a sudden we want corn. And now we have people starving because we don't have enough corn because we're putting in energy and probably not a good act. So you got to be very careful. You do a lot of things. I mean, I'm very suspect of some of the things we're trying to do in power conservation, that it's really creating more problems for us and not well thought out. But I do believe this, that power and the ability is because of the cost of power is going to force a lot of us to find ways to do better and better utilization of power. One of the reasons the data centers, what is very attractive to them, is terabyte drives and then 2 terabytes, because the biggest use of power from a drive perspective is the motors.
Yeah.
So spinning them around, that's where all power is really coming from. It's less in the chipsets and that, so it's really spinning this thing around. And so if you think about it, if you have 2 500 gigabyte drives, and if I can replace them with 1 terabyte, I reduce 1 motor. So I've cut the power on without doing any technology, just absolute foot space cuts the power in half. So obviously one of the things as we go forward, there's a real payment off for higher aerial density per disk because you reduce the number of motors you have to store that many petabytes or exabytes. I think within that though, there's a lot of work being done and just taking the same motor, same chipsets, and how do you cut the use of that power in half again. So I actually think there's a lot of work in going in that process because we're going to get paid for it. I think, you know, as you talk about solid state, I mean, I think there's architectures in enterprise because they don't need a lot of capacity. IOPS, or how fast you transact data, is important, and those are the 2 best things about solid state components, is they do use less power and they have high IOPS potential that you're going to see. That's where you're going to see solid state really start moving into some of the enterprise sections, tier 0 architectures and stuff like that, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about solid state. I mean, we now see a few laptop computers with no hard drives, right? Apple Air is a good example, or the Lenovo has.
Acer has one. There's a bunch of them out there.
How is Seagate going to change its business from a hard drive business to a storage business and stay involved in that market?
Well, I mean, we are a storage business, and again, we're indifferent to the component. Whether you use a head, a disk, a chip, whether you want to use optical, those are all they're just technology components, and the key is to combine them and put controllers and error correction and things like that. So I think that as we think about it, we're going to be indifferent to it, and we are. We're very bullish on a tier 0 architecture in the enterprise of being a solid state, where people don't need much storage. It's all about transactions, so it's about IOPS and power savings. Boot up drive for a server is a great example. That said, a majority or a great majority of the storage still will be high capacity drives, but we do see a real application that makes a lot of sense to us. We don't believe in the notebook application set yet.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It's expensive. You can't get the power savings, and you can't even get the performance. I've just looked at them recently at quite a few reviews where people have compared them, and look, there's no power savings really. There's no performance improvement. Yeah. But there's a lot less capacity and a lot more money for that, less capacity. And so everyone's kind of like, well, what's going on here? And if you look at the Apple, I mean, it's a great example. You can get the same sexy, stylish, thin thing. You just pay a lot more. They don't change the warranty. They don't give you a better warranty. They don't give you a better performance or better power savings, because it's really, right now, the promise of solid state's not delivered yet. Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons that we think. But But we continue to watch it, monitor it. We've obviously made notebook-type drives and looked at them.
Well,
but
getting yields on that kind of technology when you go up in scale is real tough, isn't it?
Well,
it's a chip. And
yeah,
I know the bigger the chip gets, or the more
Yeah,
transistors
yeah.
you put on the chip, the more failure rate you have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
therefore
well, I think the failure
yields
rate
go down and the cost goes up, and building a hard drive is a lot easier, right?
Well, again, it's a lot more well-defined. But again, we think, again, the way we look at it, it's a component, and we're going to apply it. We see a role, and we'll have an enterprise storage solution for the enterprise. We're marching quite aggressively along that line. Notebooks, just not obvious to it that there's a value proposition for the customer. Because the question I keep asking, what problem am I solving for you?
Yeah.
If I can't give you better warranty, I can't give you better performance, I can't give you better power.
Better boot time, maybe.
Yeah, but again, we're going to probably get that way with a hybrid solution.
And what's a hybrid?
Hybrid is just taking probably 8 or 9 gigabytes of flash and putting it onto a hard drive and booting up the operating system off that.
And whenever you've been talking about
we've had them out
for the last 2 times.
Yeah. Well, we've had them out there, and the problem we haven't been able to work with Vista well enough to get the boot time we want. We can make small improvements and things like that, but we're going to have to do more work with some of the things coming out of Vista, or probably long term we're going to pin the drive itself so you can boot off the drive and get around it. So we have an approach. But again, we think that solution from a boot up will be it'll be a hybrid solution we get there. But right now, that's about it. And so we're not sure what problem why people are buying it, because we don't understand the solution. The boot up times aren't that much better, really.
Coolness factor.
But what coolness is about it? I mean, no one knows what you got in your drive. I mean, if you carry an air around, nobody knows which one you have.
I didn't buy one.
Well, actually, a lot of people are not. We don't think they're selling. And our comments back from some of our OEMs are just, it is a technology that doesn't right now solve a problem. Yeah. That said, there's a lot of work done in solid state that you got to be very aware of. And we're spending a lot of time understanding it and doing it so that we can keep on top of it. Because it could, things could change, the reliability could improve, the cost could, and we got to be aware of it. And then we'll deploy that component in storage solutions when we think it makes sense to the customer and we solve the problem.
Let's go back and talk about the home. I mean, at South by Southwest, I was on a panel about consumer electronics, and I asked how many people have a 40-inch or bigger HD screen, and 30% of the hands went up. And I expect next year it'll be 50% or something like that. Are you guys going to come into the home with consumer product with a? Well,
we already have one in the home with external drives, so we're already starting to show up in your home with external drives.
But that hooks up to something else.
It hooks up to something else. No, we're taking a hard look at it. One of the things we did, I took my executive vice president of sales and marketing, and he left that job and has taken over our retail branding group completely and focus on that. And it's because realistically, both we and him see the opportunity is just phenomenal in that space. So we're looking at a lot of different ways to come after the home. I mean, right now, what's happening to you as a consumer, we're just flooding you with content from the internet, from your DVR off your TV set, through your iPod video music stuff, through your handheld, your camera. Your content is just being flooded to you. Yeah. But you have no way of managing it, sharing it yet, how to use it, make it easy to use it. I mean,
if you're a geek, you can do it.
Yeah, but that's what it is. But it's not easy. And I think there's a real battle for the home. I mean, you've seen, you got Cisco through Scientific Atlanta coming after you through the satellite and the cable box, if you will. Yeah. You got EMC, just bought iOmega's trying to get a footstep in the home. You've got the gaming guys, Sony and Microsoft, trying to get their gaming with what you think about what they're doing with those gaming. Those aren't just game machines. No. Those are home servers that they're trying to develop.
Yeah, you get HD movies on Xbox.
Yeah, right. And so you can see what they're trying to do with their Trojan horse, and it's a Trojan horse to your home. You've got the Dells and the HPs are thinking about home media servers.
Yeah, Sun and Neil Young was showing off the PlayStation.
Again, everyone's trying to get in your home, and they're trying to put a footprint in there and then sell you services. You got Apple. They've got one of the better systems, I think, just with their time machine and all that. But it's a proprietary.
Well, they have Apple TV.
You're right, but you can see what Apple has done is from the Apple TV. How do you get content off of a internet, off of some other device, put it digitized, and then see it on your TV? Yeah. I mean, that's the key, is some way of taking all these inputs, whether it's your camera, your phone, the internet, the TV, from the cable box. How do you get that content, get it into a device, and then use that device to share it? Because you don't really want to watch on your PC, you want to watch on TV, but how do you get it to your TV? How do you share that? And then once all that content's in one spot, how do you do something with it?
But is Seagate going to have any success getting in that fight with Apple and Microsoft and Sony and Comcast, you know, because you got to sell something to Comcast if you want to go in the cable route or the telephone company. You know.
Again, I think that, I mean, there's kind of two ways to look at the home for us, because the one of the things, all those people I talked to you about, they need storage.
Yeah.
They need a lot of it. They don't need 30.
I have a Mac Mini with 4 terabyte Seagate drives.
So they need a lot of storage.
So you're already in my house.
Yeah. So you know, as you think about it, the opportunity set here is: do you want to be an arms dealer? Yeah. Sell to every one of these and see who wins. Do you want to kind of help one of them win? Because there may be certain types of one of these winners is better for us because it gets more content deal. So you can look at, just sell to everyone, will be indifferent. We could try to weigh in with one side or other, try to make one side a better deal because it helps us. Or you could say you could try to do all that but still try to put your own brand. The last being probably the toughest thing to do, because it's, you know, it's one thing for us, Seagate, to compete against a WD or someone like that in a branding war, to compete against Sony and HP and
Apple
and those guys.
Come on,
right.
Microsoft's trying to compete with Apple
too, right? I mean, these guys know this.
That's
stuff.
$1 billion fight right there.
Right. Yeah. So
you got $1 billion in your pocket.
Yeah. I wish. Wouldn't be talking to you, Robert.
Why does everybody say that?
So you kind of look at it, and we're obviously looking at all three. You know, at the end of the day, you know, again, we're very comfortable being the arms dealer. Obviously we're probably pretty comfortable trying to help one of these or two of these be the more preferred choice, if you will. You know, the latter, you know, we're starting with our external drives, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. What's happening in the global economy? It's clear we're. Some people think we're in a recession. Some people think it's not yet a recession. But it's clearly a turbulent times. When I go over to Europe and I try to buy a euro, it costs me a lot of dollars to buy a euro. And has the turbulent times affected Seagate's business yet? And are you seeing effects?
You know, we've had, I mean, our March quarter was the best March we ever had, 70 cents a share. It was up, earnings was up about 40% over a year ago. Revenue was up over 10% from a year ago. So you know what, if this is a recession, you know, great. We've had our best year ever, by far. Again, we're seeing, are there issues with right now? The U.S. retail consumer market is pretty weak relative to where we should be. Asia is much stronger and Europe's much stronger. I think we have oversold a recession personally. I think any time that the economy affects Wall Street, New York, or affects newspapers, we overblow it. And what you have right now is the economy is affecting those two people big. Wall Street because of this credit crisis, and I think it's very much a New York problem they got themselves into, so they're whining about everything. And the newspapers are really being crunched by this change from physical distribution to electronic. There's not a newspaper in the country that's not laying off people and having to rethink about their valuations and the whole bit, because what's happening, people are going to things like you're doing, and so when that happens to the newspaper, the world is a lot worse because it affects them. You know, and so I think you've got this thing overhyped a lot. We don't see a lot of the stuff that people talk about. We don't see it in Asia at all. We don't see it in Europe a lot.
It's probably good to have a global company.
Well, it is, and I think a lot of
euros probably are coming in.
Well, that's the thing.
Right?
Well, not only that, our dollar looks very attractive as we sell it. I think we have some fundamental issues with the dollar. We're obviously in an election year, so we're going to keep the dollar very cheap, which is also impacting oil. Oil's rising because our dollar's so cheap, and oil is obviously a dollar-based deal. So I think there's some fundamental things that have to do with how people are playing with the election year.
Which helps you again because travel gets more expensive, right?
Well, people stay home watch content.
On the radio, you know, you had another gas surcharge on all the airlines, right? And so now people are going to use video conferencing more instead of traveling.
Not only that, people stay at home. They don't go out. They watch stuff at home and things like that. So right now, it's hard to be very bullish just because all the noise you hear. But we're pretty, you know, again, we think that June will be better, over a year ago will be better than a year ago numbers for us, and at a 10% clip. So, again, we're pretty, you know, we're looking at it very carefully, but right now, we don't think things are as bad. It's probably down a little here in the U.S., but we don't think worldwide things are as bad as being advertised, I guess, in the Netherlands.
How big is the data center market to your business?
You know, I'd have to go look at it. It's a big hunk of it. It's a big hunk of high-capacity drives, and so it's over. Because it's sold by such a high capacity, its impact is much bigger. But you know, when you compare to notebook and desktop volume, there's still a lot of volume going on just single desktop and notebook.
Well, certainly, I look at my usage. I'm buying lots of hard drives, and I'm storing a lot of stuff on the
Yeah,
cloud, so
yeah,
I know somebody somewhere is buying a lot of hard
Yeah,
drives.
well, again, and what's-
Rackspace just is going IPO,
Yeah.
and they bought a 1 million square foot mall. We visited
yeah.
them and got a tour of their mall, and I said, "Are you going to put Seagate drives in here?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Your sales guy should be hanging out at Rackspace right now. Make a good sale over there.
You know, and what's nice about this, you store that same content there, and you keep it close to you too.
Yeah.
So what's really driving a lot of our business is you guys keep this. Everyone keeps the same content in a couple different places.
Yeah.
It's not like a bunch of different content.
You're talking like Ray Ozzie now.
Yeah.
But Microsoft with the Microsoft Mesh, you know, because he wants to store. He's going to hook up all your devices, you know, through the Microsoft Mesh, and you're going to store your content here, and then it's going to go over there and over there and over there and up on the cloud.
Right.
You know, so
and we believe that behavior is what everybody wants. And storage is cheap enough, probably going to allow. That's how it gets deployed. I'll keep some off.
I never even thought about that. Do you and Ray go golfing? Plotting against the world. You know, how are we going to make sure our content gets put 7 different places?
You know, the more inefficient you store, the better it is for us. I mean, at the net of it, that's what it is. But you do. I mean, there's because storage is fairly cheap, you will keep it in the clouds. But you want to keep it nearby and close to you. And for security reasons, you may put it somewhere else. And again, I mean, I get the same DVDs in one house stored in another house. And I have a Kaleidoscape system with 6 terabytes, but it's the same DVD in this house that isn't over this house. Yeah. So again, it's just kind of ubiquitous nature of storage everywhere. And then the fact that people's behavior is, it's cheap enough, I'll keep a lot of it stored.
Yeah. Do you think Blu-ray is really going to take off, or is it just going to go digital? You know, it is digital on Blu-ray, but is it going to go over the internet digital? You know, where I just download a movie. Is the bandwidth there yet to support, you know, buying HD movies? It's getting close. I'm seeing more and more companies deliver almost HD movies to my laptop.
Yeah.
Right?
I've always said it was never about HD versus Blu-ray. It was always about physical distribution versus electronic. I think the Blu-ray is a great experience, but I think you can get very close to it with downloads. And again, I always go back, what's the most easiest, cheapest way to do this? And rather carry around physical distribution, it's going to be downloads. And the ability is bandwidth to download this and store it. And so again, I think anything that incorporates a physical distribution, an extra drive set, you need a Blu-ray. I mean, all that doesn't hit a business model that makes sense to me. You know, that said, if somehow they can make the experience so much better, then there's a shot, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, you know, my argument to anyone is, look, the battle's always been about physical distribution versus electronic. And any time that you have a physical distribution model, you're going to be attacked by the ease and cost effectiveness of electronic downloads.
Yeah. What else do we need to know about Seagate right now? For the next, we were just having a meeting about CES in January. You know, what's the roadmap between now and CES? What are we going to hear from Seagate? Again,
I think what you're going to see is continued evolution of technology, new products coming out. We have this new one we're coming out with the Black Armor. We talked about it at CES, which is starting putting other features, security in this case. We're going to really put feature set security on your drives. And
so
really,
if your laptop gets ripped off, nobody can get to it.
They can't get to it. Yeah. And not only that, when you throw away your laptop, they can't get it either. Okay, one of the things people don't realize, when you get rid of your laptop, that data doesn't go away. That's still there. And people can take that data off. In the enterprise market, we're doing the same thing. We're putting FDE on the enterprise drives, not for security as it's running. So when you get rid of these drives, they can put another level of security. These drives can't have that data ripped off when you get rid of them. So
that's an interesting area too, because you're going to sell 1 billion drives in the next 4 years. How recyclable are those? Are you worried about that?
And it's kind of a real cop out on my part. Is we should be a lot more worried about than we are, because we kind of allow the Dells and the HP. Since they buy from, we really deal with them. But that kind of that's kind of pushing the accountability to somebody else when realistically we need to be doing it. And so we're looking at things, at least from how we do boards and solder, and how can we eliminate this stuff ourselves, so at least farther down the cleanup's a lot less, if you will, of a problem. But this is a real issue, and I'm not particularly proud of our contribution so far, because our kind of standard argument is, well, that's their problem, not our problem, when realistically it should be our problem. So we're taking a hard look at what we can do to do better there. Yeah. But it is. I think we're all kind of copping out to this and saying, well, it's their problem, et cetera, and let them force us to do exactly what we should do versus us taking some personal accountability here.
Yeah. Is there any? Are you looking at making any investments? Obviously, solder's changed because I can't use lead-based solder.
Right.
Even in my house now, right? Which is
no. Again, that's what we're doing. We're looking at how can we manufacture these things, if you will, and at least have the drive less hazardous materials in the drive. You know, we've got rid of Freon and things like that. All of our process has gone to different things like that. So, but we need to keep doing a lot more work. And I to be honest, I don't think any of us are doing a very good job. And right now, I don't think Seagate's doing it right there either. I mean, there's been this pressure. We tend to want to say, well, it's the PC guy's problem or the enterprise guy's problem because I'm selling to them. And I'm not sure. I think we're giving away something we shouldn't be giving away, personal accountability here.
Yeah. Are you guys thinking about how mobile phones, how to get storage devices bigger?
Yeah, you know,
phones,
really not some. Yeah, mobile phones are things like the BlackBerry and the Palm. How do we get that? You know, the thing is, with the way bandwidth is going, you know, my vision keeps coming back. In your hand is solid state. So the degree I start getting more and more solid state, I'm going to look at that. But it just makes sense to me that that's a solid state. You carry a lot of storage, and then in your hand and as bandwidth, you just talk to your home.
Yeah.
And
I'm doing live videos on my cell phone.
Yeah,
you know, and it goes straight up to the cloud.
Right,
so
and so we think what makes the most sense to us is you carry 60, 80 gigabytes, no more than that though, in your hand. You download what you want, and then you just exchange data into some home server or cloud server storage. We think the car ends up being the same way. The car will take enough that you want for your trips, and as long as you can download, you know,
a couple movies.
Yeah,
for the kids.
yeah, and stuff like that. And again, we think, and again, in a lot of these areas, 100 gigabytes or less solves a lot of problems. Now, you may want to take more. If you get above 100, then hard drives become much more viable as we think about 2012. I mean, today 100 gigabytes is very much a hard drive, but as we think about the market in 2011-12, you know, pretty much anything under 100 gigabytes, it's going to be a solid state. Anything over is probably going to be a hard drive and or a hybrid version of that.
What is happening in the automotive industry? I just saw Microsoft and Hyundai announced a $100 million R&D facility.
Yeah, no, they're very much going into content distribution. I mean, it's not just content into the back seat; it's content to the front seat via the GPS versus how do we sell you, you know, services like what's the best restaurants in town? How do you get there? What's the statuses of things like that? Ongoing traffic reports feeding into you. So there's a real business model people are looking at, all requiring a significant amount of storage. And so the car will be interesting because it tweaks to that 100 gigabyte model. Right now, there are drives being sold for GPS systems and home entertainment systems in the car right now. And there's a lot of secondary markets being developed along the line. So again, we think, just as a hit to the hand, it will move the car in a fairly big way. And it'll become an entertainment center in the car for you.
Well, cool. We've spent a lot of time and gotten a lot of waterfront covered. So,
all right.
Looking forward to seeing you in a couple more months.
Right.
Probably at the September announcements that you guys do.
And we'll do the
at the Consumer Electronics Show, we're going to do a social media house or lounge or something like that.
Yeah, we'll do that again.
Social media lounge where all the bloggers and friend feeders and Twitterers and Flickerers and YouTubers can come in and hang out.
Again, we think we're a big fan of the blogger. We think you guys are kind of the leading of technologists. You guys are the ones that kind of paved the way for everybody else to come.
We're just the loudmouths.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true too.
We're the ones who tell everybody about other things, right?
Anyways, I love supporting you because it drives all the conventional magazine writers nuts. And that's why I like it. They just can't. It just drives them nuts. You know, if you're at the big magazines.
Well, I write for a magazine now too.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. See, that happens.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
All right, Robert.